continues to query the same question without a satisfying answer. Why do bad things happen to good people? Many nations torment themselves attempting to understand this phenomenon, and when they are unable, they lose their faith in their religious values. Yet Am Yisrael discerns the world through a different lens, one that places their full trust in the Almighty, one that never loses sight of the supremacy of the Torah, and an emunah pishuta, a simple and pure belief that all Borei Olam does, He does for the good. The great Sephardic Chacham and author of the Reshit Chochmah, Rabbeinu Eliyahu di Vidas, Zatzal, finds an expression of this everlasting truth in the words of the Pasuk in Devarim, V'yedata hayom v'hashivota, El levavecha ki Hashem hu Elokim, Bashamayim mima'al. If one contemplates the order of the day, the darkness of night, followed by the glorious light of daytime, he will realize that Kudsha Barichu partnered the two for a purpose. Just as the world needs daylight, yet it cannot exist without nighttime, so too the Midat HaChesed, the attribute of kindness, was partnered with the Midat HaDin, the attribute of justice. Perhaps an illustration shared by Rabbi Spiro. Of the great Magidim of yesteryear, Reb Yankele Galinsky stood out for his unique style. His delicate combination of musar, inspiration, and wisdom made him one of the most sought-after Magidim of his time. Often when collecting for yeshiva fundraisers, they present the needs of the yeshiva they represent, followed by a pitch to the donor. Reb Yankele had an entirely different approach. He simply spoke from his heart with scintillating dirashot to inspire Klal Yisrael. That was his only pitch. And once touched by his stirring messages, people would come forward and offer generous donations to his yeshiva. He once traveled to Mexico to raise much-needed funds for his yeshiva. During his trip, he experienced one of the most humiliating encounters of his life. Yet, when it was all over, he was able to perceive daylight in a terribly dark evening. Reb Yankele walked up to the address of the prospective donor, who was in the midst of celebrating a Chanukah Habayit. Once invited in, he was asked, of course, to speak in honor of the momentous occasion. Walking around the outside of the house, he marveled at its sheer opulence. The house was colossal and would sit on an entire city block back home in Bnei Brak. In the moment of distraction, his mind on the derasha, he misjudged his footing and found himself plunging directly into the swimming pool. A true calamity. In an instant, the horrified family rushed to his aid, pulling him out of the water and ushering him into the villa, his clothes dripping wet. Yet when they attempted to find suitable attire to replace his soaked garments, nothing seemed to fit. With no reasonable alternative at hand, Reb Yankele took a few moments to dry himself off, and undeterred, he prepared his derasha, a sermon meant to be delivered in the presence of multimillionaires. What could he possibly say while maintaining some level of dignity? He stood up in front of the crowd and he says, Rabotai! This is the first time I have ever immersed myself in the mikveh before giving a speech. As the crowd erupted in laughter, Reb Yankele masterfully transformed the moment into an awe-inspiring and profoundly wise message, touching the hearts in ways he couldn't have fathomed. Amid the motivation stirred by his speech, a sense of remorse washed over the audience, driven to overcompensate for the unfortunate incident. Little did Reb Yankele foresee the overwhelming generosity that followed, as checks poured in abundantly, allowing him to return home much earlier than anticipated. In the moments of reflection that followed, he couldn't help but question himself. He had already sacrificed so much to embark on this journey, and the level of humiliation from the pool incident felt overwhelming. After all, he had traveled halfway across the world with a noble purpose, to gather funds for Limud Torah. How could such an unexpected setback be part of his mission? Now I get it, he thought to himself. In order to raise funds, one must endure some level of a bizayon. However, this time, instead of undergoing tinier amounts of bizyonot spread out over months with very little to show for my efforts, he thought, Borei Olam orchestrated all of the busha in one fell swoop, of course, with the requisite funds in tow. Now I plan to return home to Eretz Yisrael. Reb Yankel's unplanned plunge into the pool with his bekesha and shtreimel can teach us all a lesson about life as well. When one stumbles or falls, they should avoid despairing, as it may only seem like they have truly fallen. In reality, a fall serves as a springboard, propelling one forward and upward, regardless of how daunting the situation may seem. Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner famously comments on the pasuk in Mishlei, Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. The righteous one may fall 7 times, but he will rise. The buffoon thinks that this means even though a tzaddik falls 7 times, he will rise. However, the chacham understands it to mean because a tzaddik falls 7 times, he will rise. Amidst life's inevitable falls, the true essence of our character emerges when we summon the strength to climb. Embrace the challenges, the seemingly impossible, for with each rise we grow wiser, we grow stronger, and unequivocally closer to fulfilling our individual tafkid. Shabbat Shalom u'Mevarach.